back to the garage. Today we're going to be working on the roll pan and a new parachute mount. So the roll pan that's on the car now is pretty much destroyed, it's full of dents, broken away. And the parachute mount is too high and it's pretty ugly. So we're going to cut that off, cut the roll pan off, fab up a new roll pan and a new bracket for the parachute and get all that installed. So, all right, so you can see how the parachute is mounted to the back of the car. So the welds are pretty terrible. It's pretty ugly looking. If we go underneath here, you can see it's kind of just butt welded in there. Not very pretty. Alright, so we'll start with getting the deck lid out of the way. It's a steel deck lid, but the framing underneath is gutted and it's zeused in. Okay, so to remove the parachute assembly, you got it zip tied so it doesn't open. There's just 2 bolts in the back. So you can pull that. Alright, so we're underneath the car. Holding on the bumper is 2 bolts, 1 on each corner. Alright, with those 2 nuts out of the back, we can pull the bumper straight out. Okay, so we got everything cleared off the back of the car. We got rid of the bumper and the parachute. So we put the car on the hoist, lifted it up a bit to get access to the roll pan. Now we're gonna cut that out with a grinder and then we'll make a template for the new one to go in. So the roll pan of the car is right here, sits under the bumper. So just rolls down underneath, kind of gets a clean body line under the bumper. So we're gonna cut it out just below the groove for the bumper so we have a good solid line to follow with the new patch. Okay, so we cut the old roll pan out, cleaned up the edge here. I took a measurement of the new patch I'm gonna have to make. I'll make it a little bigger than what I need and then fit it, trim it, and then we'll weld it in. So I need 56 inches across and 5 inches down. So we got the patch cut out and vice gripped into place here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it tight to the back of the car. I'm going to go in behind with the Sharpie, mark out the outline, drop it, cut it, and then try to fit it. Probably have to do a bit more cutting and then we'll start welding it in. Alright, so we got the rough piece here, what we need. Fits pretty good. So we'll take the buffer, clean up the edges of this, and start tacking it in and then roll it as we go. Okay, so the roll pan, we finished welding it in and ground down all the welds, and then I applied some short strand fiberglass to the seam. Once that hardens up, we'll sand that down smooth, and then we'll probably have to go with a little bit of body filler, maybe just some spot putty to get it perfect, and then we'll sand that down, prime it, and be ready for paint. Okay, so while the fiberglass is drying on the roll pan, we're going to work on the parachute mount here. I cut off the bracket for the chute itself, and so that's out of the way. Now all we have to do is we'll have to go under the car and cut out the 3 brackets that are welded to the chassis underneath. Alright, so we're at the back of the car. I got the floor panel out that was around the parachute mount and the chassis. So once I removed it, yeah, I get better access here in the back. So you can see this is the main chassis here, and these 3 pieces here are going out to where the parachute mounts. Whoever did it last did a terrible job of putting it back together. They're not welded all the way around, they're the wrong size. So we're going to cut these back a bit, back here, and then redo the mount straighter out through the back. Okay, so we got the old parachute mount cut out, and that's what's left in there. So the old mount was a piece of tubing with a nut welded in it, and then an eye bolt, and then the parachute hooked to the eye bolt. So that's not really how most parachutes mount. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a new mount out of this 2x2 square tubing. Okay, so I got the piece that I'm going to work with here. What I'm going to do is find the side with the seam in it. I'll get rid of it. So this side has a seam, so I don't need that side. So the bracket itself is going to be 3 inches tall. And then the sides are kind of going to be triangulated with a rounded edge for maximum strength. So I'll get that traced out on here and cut out. Okay, so here's the piece I finished cutting up for the parachute mount. Next thing we're going to have to do is drill the hole through it for the bolt, and then we'll have to make up a bushing to go around over the bolt. So when the bolt clamps down on this bracket, it'll keep the bracket from folding in, and it also gives more surface area for the parachute to pull against. So that'll be the next step to go. Also, since it's a one-piece tubing, I'm going to clean up these grooves on the inside here and run a bead of weld down each side for added strength so it doesn't want to collapse on itself. Okay, so before we weld this bracket on, I'm going to have to make some structure underneath here. As you can see, where it used to come out of the back is fairly high on the body because the body in the back sits really low on this chassis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down with some tubing, drop it down off this run here, just so I can get the parachute mount lower to make clearance to put the parachute pack above it. Okay, so the parachute mount for the lanyard is welded to the car, so now I can go ahead and make a pack mount for the parachute itself. So this is the piece of aluminum out of the pack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 3/8 tubing and bend it to fit all the way around the outside of this. Then I'm going to weld 4 tabs, one on each corner, so I can bolt this to the bracket. And then once I have that bracket all welded up, I can decide where it's going to go and then tie everything back to this mount right here. Okay, so again, I'm going to have to improvise because I don't have the expensive specialty tools like a decent tubing bender that's probably only $100, but I didn't buy one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the socket and the tubing in the vise and roll it around the tubing, so it actually makes a pretty good bend. If you want a bigger bend, you can use a bigger socket. So I'm just going to measure my 9 inches, make the bend, measure 9 inches, make a bend, and then we'll get the shape pretty much where we want it, and then we'll make some tabs and weld them on. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so I welded it together, and then I took some tabs I had and welded those on as well. So that's what the piece looks like. So now what we'll do is we'll take the aluminum back plate, lay it on, mark out the holes, drill them, and then we can bolt this and the parachute bag to this frame. But in the meantime, we're gonna have to build some framing now to attach this to the car. All right, so after some messing around with different lengths and different mounting points, this is what I come up with that looks and works the best. So again, with some 3/8 tubing, I tied everything back to the main chassis here, and everything's just tack welded in place now just to make sure everything worked. So what I'll do now is I'll solid weld everything, and then I'll tie some more braces into this bar back to the chassis up top, and that should hold the parachute pack no problem. Okay, so the parachute pack mount is finished. I got it welded all solid. I added some struts in it for strength, so that's not going to move anywhere now. So we'll bolt the parachute up to it and see how it looks. All right, so I mounted the parachute on the new frame. Everything fits up pretty good. I didn't put the launcher in with the pack, mostly because it's hard to fit behind here in this tight space. And we're going to change this parachute anyway. So other than that, that's pretty much what it's going to look like. And secured to the car, everything's tight. So let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time.